What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on Thursday afternoon, day 4 of the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis. We're about a little over a half hour away prior to the first on-field workouts. I'll be watching those, though thought I'd jump on before that starts and talk to you fine Packers fans worldwide about my draft crush, Kenneth Murray. This kid is so impressive. I still think it's a bit of a long shot that he falls to 30, but it could happen. There's certainly a chance that he's available when the Packers select at 30, and man, I want them to take this kid. Not just for everything he does on the field, which is incredibly impressive, but his meeting with the media today, he's just a super impressive young man and the kind of guy that you would love to cheer for. Just has the added bonus of being a great football player. We'll see. A long way to go. We'll see how he tests. We'll see how his workouts go, but I could not be more excited at the prospect of Kenneth Murray being in the green and gold. It's up in the comments. How are you, everybody? Aaron, to answer your question, hey, Nagler, Murray or Rhaegar? I'll be surprised if Rhaegar is available. I'll be much more surprised if he's available at 30 than Murray. But of those two, because of the depth at wide receiver this year, I'd probably pick Murray, because after the few guys that'll be available inside, say around when the Packers are selecting in the first round, there's a deep drop. There's a big drop off. So at wide receiver, I think, yes, you definitely want to get as many pass catchers as you can for Aaron Rodgers and company. I think there will be talent available that can be effective right away throughout this draft. Not necessarily that are going to come in and start and be the number 2 across from Adams immediately, but certainly guys that will be able to contribute right away and throughout the season and have an impact on the offensive side of the ball. Thoughts on Jalen Hurts if he falls to the 3rd round? Well, it's a possibility, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers were interested. Gutekunst has certainly not shied away from exploring those types of players, but we'll see. I know I struggle with him a little bit. I'm not, and you guys know, I've talked about it here. I've talked about it on the podcast. I'm not a huge draft guy. I'm not a college football guy, so I'm coming at these guys very, very cold. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Gutekunst made that call. But again, it's still very early in the process. A lot to play out, workouts, pro days, etc. What's your prediction? Do we draft a wide receiver or inside linebacker first? I have no idea. It really depends on how the board falls and who's available. And, my gut would tell me that they go wide receiver simply because they've really devalued inside linebacker as a program, whether it's Ron Wolf, Ted Thompson, Gutekunst, etc., Mike Sherman. They have just inside backer has not been an insanely huge priority, especially since they've gone to a 3-4 for whatever reason. But that said, they've also not selected a wide receiver in the first round since Javon Walker back in 2002. So history is playing against each other there. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a repeat of what we saw back when they selected Jordy and they were sitting at 30 and dropped out of the first round entirely, went into the top of the second, and then selected Jordy. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that on April 23rd. How much did we pay Mason Crosby? Pretty decent amount. Rob Domofsky's Twitter has that complete breakdown. Don't look at headlines. Don't look at initial reports. Always wait for the breakdown. And Rob's got it. I think it's in line. I think he's going to be a top 5 paid kicker, at least for 2020, which I think is pretty in line with what he's given them, especially last year. I'm hoping for a right tackle. Got to get those big dudes. Yeah, it's interesting because the Packers have been pretty successful at finding starting offensive linemen later in the draft. Their MO of finding offensive tackles that they can kick into guard is something that they've been pretty regular at. But as you say, you got to have those big guys to protect the franchise. And if there's somebody there that they like and say the value is just too good to pass up, especially if there's, say, the first kind of echelon tier of wide receivers is gone and there's a pretty precipitous fall to the second tier and the inside linebackers are off the board, at least the ones worthy of the 30th overall pick, tackle would not surprise me. whatsoever. That said, I don't know who that would be at 30. But again, I'll be talking to Matt Miller and a couple other draft people throughout the week and get some more of those thoughts both here and on my podcast. Love out of Utah is getting a lot of buzz. Seems like a good protege. Yeah, William, I saw, I think Bucky Brooks had him going to the Packers at 30 in his latest mock draft. It's an intriguing idea. I wouldn't be surprised if they selected a quarterback at 30. Love seems like a bit of a reach there, but again, that's sitting on the outside, coming to this cold as a layman on the media side, not really knowing a lot about college football and not being privy to what personnel people are thinking inside the building. Does seem like a bit of a reach, but quarterbacks do get overdrafted every year simply because of the need for them and the scarcity and how hard it is to find them. So wouldn't surprise me. Is Patrick another version of Treader and we won't be able to... Sorry. Is Patrick another version of Treader and we won't be able to hang on to him in a few? I don't know. They just re-upped him, right, for 2 more years. A nice problem to have. The thing with Treader that made him valuable on the open market was his versatility. Patrick is strictly an interior guy. He's not going to be able to kick out a tackle like Treader did in an emergency situation. I think that made him really valuable on the open market. And that's not to say that he wouldn't, if he does get playing time and balls out, that he won't hit the market and make some money. But I do think Treader was in a much more unique situation, which helped his stock. That said, I love Patrick. I love his story. I'm happy he's in the fold for 2 more years. Next, have you seen Tyler Johnson? Joseph, thank you for the super chat. From Minnesota, he's my crush, wide receiver prospect of this entire draft. Also, no, I have not. The wide receivers are set to work out in about a half hour. So he'll undoubtedly be on the field later this afternoon. We'll be watching all those workouts, and I'll definitely be talking about that as the week progresses. I'm here until Sunday. I'll be watching all the workouts until then, and I'll give you my thoughts after that. Are you concerned that the Packers perpetually have rookies as wide receivers? That's an interesting point of view, Brandy. Not really. I mean, they've gone through a cycle. There's no doubt about that. They went from having an incredibly productive and experienced core to allowing guys to walk and or cutting them, i.e. Jordy or Randall, what have you. And they've come up with some, less experienced guys, no doubt about it. They did select 3 in the draft a couple years ago. One obviously didn't work out. It's no longer with them. One was injured last year. But, it's not a worry. I think they're trying to develop guys. I think they'll have to draft a few this year because some other selections haven't worked out. But, it's not like Gutekunst has been sitting on his hands at the position when it comes to trying to acquire guys with experience. He went after Allen Robinson, and it came down to choosing between Chicago and Green Bay, and Robinson chose Chicago. I think they offered a little bit more money. That always helps. But, now he's reaping what he sowed because he gets to play with Mitch Trubisky and waste the best open years of his life as a player, which is, that's his prerogative. And then he tried to get Sammy Watkins. He was in on Sammy, and Kansas City just blew them out of the water money-wise. So it's not like he's just been sitting there going, oh, rookies are nothing. He has been trying to augment the position, and he did explore trade possibilities this past offseason. He just didn't want to rent a guy, which essentially was what he would have been doing had he sent a draft pick for a guy who would be playing 5-6 games, and then they'd have to re-sign on a new contract. Much better, in my opinion, you guys know this if you've been on this channel for a while, much better to save that pick for a incredibly deep draft class and go get your own guys that you can develop and pay a hell of a lot less money that are going to impact you with their speed and athleticism as they grow. Goody seems better at signing free agents than drafting. Well, early returns certainly suggest that you're right. We'll see how things progress as these years go on. I wouldn't make too much out of that just yet. Still very early in his tenure. But yeah, that first draft class is rough. There's no doubt about it. You can't really paint it any other way at this point. Jair obviously is a player. Outside of that, it's been very questionable, if not downright disappointing. I think there's a lot of potential still in last year's draft class. I'm not ready to write that off yet, but certainly in free agency last year, he absolutely killed it. Zachary, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for all the content, Nags. You're the man. No, you are. If the Packers somehow acquired Amari Cooper, would that excite you? Well, yeah. You put him opposite Devontae Adams? Holy cow. Yes, sir. Thank you. Please, may I have another? That'd be amazing. However, I think he's going to get, if he does end up hitting the market, and that's still not a given, but it sounds like it's trending that way here in Indy. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid a lot of money. And I don't think the Packers are going to be able to compete with people throwing around monster contracts. You know, they got to pay Kenny Clark. They're going to have to pay David Bakhtiari soon. They're going to have to pay, if they're going to have to make a decision on whether they want to pay Aaron Jones. These things aren't going to be cheap, you know? So we'll see. And Brian Bulaga, maybe they want to bring Bulaga back, though I think they're going to let him walk. Who knows? But I love the idea of Cooper and Devontae Adams playing together, but at what cost? That, to me, is where I think it's going to be probably untenable. If we cut Jimmy Graham, we will have around $28 million or so, minus some for re-signs. What free agent would you most want to see? Corey Littleton? I'd love Littleton. I think he would absolutely come in, fit the bill for what they're looking for and what they've needed desperately inside. Again, though, that's the case of, you know, supply and demand. There aren't a whole lot of guys hitting the market that fit the bill, who can do all the things that Littleton can do. And because of that, you know, funnily enough, he'll probably be going up against Blake Martinez in free agency. But because of that, you know, he's going to get paid. You know, so I think it would be great. It'd be a great addition, but I'd be surprised if they shell out that amount of money. I think they'll look to the draft at inside backer. Zachary, thanks again for the super chat. What will we pay Kenny Clark? What's he worth? Whoo, baby, he's worth a lot. I guarantee you this. When the deal gets announced this summer, when the news breaks, the first initial reporting on it will have the monster numbers and a huge signing bonus, an incredible guaranteed amount. And some Packers fans, some vocal sect of Packers fans will be upset that they overpaid. And then you'll fast forward a year, maybe even less. And once we get the real numbers, and once we see how the salary cap jumps, and we see another year of free agency, plus the new TV deals, and whatever they sign him for will be a bargain just a year later. The salary cap goes up every year. New CBA may throw things in a little bit of a kind of a twilight zone, no man's land, what have you, as far as the new TV deals go. But once the new TV deals and or digital deals come through on the NFL side, I mean, teams should want to lock guys up now quickly because the things are going to jump big time. And what's Kenny Clark? I think $14 million a year, probably hovering around that on the average. But yeah, pay that man now. He's only going to get more expensive. Luis, thank you for the super chat. Thoughts on Edward Hilaire and Jalen Rhaegar? We talked about Rhaegar a little bit. Hilaire, I'm not too familiar with. Like I said, workouts start this afternoon. We'll start getting a look at all these guys on the field pretty soon. Rhaegar is a really exciting prospect, but I think he's going to be long gone by the time the Packers select. But we'll see. You know, every year we say, "Oh, he's not going to be there," and then something happens, and a kid falls, and all of a sudden they're picking from a ton of great choices, and then inevitably Brian Gutekunst makes the selection, and everyone's upset that they didn't pick their guy. Perfect example is Aaron Rodgers looks at his new contract now. It looks small compared to what other QBs got. Yeah, I mean, that is very much the nature of the beast, especially at that position. Quarterbacks one-up each other each and every offseason. Yeah, you look at Rodgers' deal, and it's nothing compared to, say, Patrick Mahomes breaking the bank. But that's how the league is set up right now. You got to pay those quarterbacks or you're dead in the water. How do you get 37 parking tickets? I saw that, Jared. I saw there was some prospect, I forget who it was, but who learned from a team that he had 37 parking tickets. A, how do you not know that? B, how do you get 37 parking tickets? I've had a few parking tickets in my day, but 37? That's amazing. Michael, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' CBA comments? I thought he was spot on. It's interesting, too, because William, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the kind words. I thought he was spot on. I had heard from a couple different people that things were moving along pretty quickly and smoothly despite J.J. Watt, Richard Sherman, et cetera, coming out publicly early on. Bakhtiari had his misgivings, but things were still kind of inevitably moving towards almost like a conclusion, so to speak, especially at the rep level. But then Aaron, as Adam Schefter reported, voiced his concerns and was very strongly against not getting more concessions for a 17th game. And that has kind of really not thrown a spanner in the works, but, really opened a lot of guys' eyes in the sense of maybe I really need to pay attention and or look at what they're asking for here or what we're getting or not getting. And I think he's spot on. The idea that, and I know D. Smith had his impromptu press conference today talking about how, ownership said the 17th game was a prerequisite for the negotiation, brought it to the table as automatic assumption or something. I don't know how he phrased it, but I get what Aaron's saying. Like, there's not nearly enough given to the players in exchange for this 17th game. That is kind of the linchpin of the league being able to turn around and then not only renegotiate these TV deals that they're already in place, but then go and get even more, not only from TV and the money they're going to be able to make from selling advertisements against it, but sponsorships and things like that for another game. That's another game of gate receipts, which is huge, but TV rights, digital rights, all the different sponsorships that are attendant to each game. There's so much money to be made once they get the CBA deal done, especially if they add a 17th game. Rodgers is correct to turn around and say, look, a couple extra padless practices and upping the minimum wage is not enough, not nearly enough. And to me, and you guys know I've talked about this here, it is absolute madness for them to agree to anything that doesn't give them at least 50% revenue share. They're locking themselves into a decade with this CBA, the proposed CBA that's on the table. 10 years at less than 50% is madness to me, especially with everything I just talked about and how these TV deals are going to be insanity. The digital deals are going to be insanity, and they've got international expansion going on. There's so much money that they're going to leave on the table if they accept 48%. Billions of dollars are going to be left on the table by doing this. So I think Rodgers is 100% in the right to not only say what he said, but put it out there publicly and at least make the rest of the league, the rest of the players in his union, take a look at it and ask their agents about it and get informed, get involved, because you'd be shocked how many guys aren't, how many guys come to media members and ask, what's this all about? Like, you have union reps, you have agents, like that is literally what part of the gig. But some guys just aren't involved and aren't proactive about it. So I think that was a really good way of Rodgers kind of prodding guys to get involved. It seems like a receiver will be the first pick simply because that's where the talent seems to be at that point. Thomas, there's definitely something to that in the sense that there's so much talent, especially at the top of the draft class at wide receiver, that when you get to 30, depending on how it falls, but when you get there, there's still going to be a ton of talented guys, as opposed to maybe inside backer, where a lot of those guys, there's a potential that they'll be gone, that there's a big cliff that you can fall off of talent-wise. That said, I do think there's a good possibility that one or two blue chip guys, maybe not blue chip, but good players fall to 30 at a different position that allows Gutekunst to take another position and wait on wide receiver because the class is so deep. There's still going to be a lot of talent available to him on day 2, maybe even day 3. Not that he should wait, but that may give him pause and or the ability to wait because he knows there'll be more players available later on. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. Please hit like, hit subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow chatting more Packers, more NFL Combine, more draft. Workout's about to start in 15 minutes. If you can't watch, don't worry. I'll be talking about it all day tomorrow. And hey, if you want to support what we do here at Cheesehead TV, please consider giving us $5 a month on our Patreon, patreon.com/CheeseheadTV. You get access to my podcast, Nagler's Never Right, exclusively at Patreon. And you'll have early access to the Cheesehead TV draft guide, which is available for pre-order as we speak. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Pack Go.